The phone felt like ice in my hand when I dialed my son David's number that Tuesday afternoon. Before I could even speak, my daughter-in-law Jessica appeared in my doorway with a smile that sent shivers down my spine. "Oh, Margaret," she said casually, examining her freshly manicured nails. "Didn't David tell you? We got married last Saturday. Just a small ceremony with the people who really matter to us." The people who really matter. Those 6 words shattered something inside me. For 3.5 years, I had transferred $650 every single month to cover their apartment rent. I had purchased every stick of furniture they owned, the bed they slept in, the couch Jessica was now sitting on, the dining table where they ate meals I often paid for. When their refrigerator was empty, I filled it. When they had emergencies, I was the first call they made. But apparently, I didn't matter enough to witness my only child get married. I stood frozen in my own living room, watching David avoid eye contact while Jessica made herself comfortable on the sofa I'd bought them 6 months ago. Hanging in my closet was a beautiful lavender dress, $230 I'd spent imagining myself in their wedding photos. Photos I would never be in. For weeks, I had been planning. I'd saved $1,500 as their wedding gift. I'd called my sister Patricia in Boston to share the exciting news. I'd deep-cleaned my entire house, thinking they might celebrate with me afterward. All of it crumbled with those cruel words, "People who really matter." David finally looked up, his voice rehearsed and hollow. "Mom, it was really intimate. Just us and 2 witnesses. Very simple." But I knew better. Later that night, I saw the photos on social media. Jessica's parents beaming beside the newlyweds. Her 3 siblings raising champagne glasses. Jessica's designer white dress, the one I'd helped fund with the $900 I'd given her the previous month for personal necessities. I saw everything I wasn't supposed to see. 7 days later, exactly 1 week after that humiliation, my phone rang. Jessica's voice had completely transformed from the confident woman who'd excluded me from her wedding. "Margaret, we have a serious problem," she said, her voice trembling with manufactured urgency. "The rent was due 3 days ago. Our landlord is threatening eviction if we don't pay by Friday. You forgot to send the money." She said it like I'd forgotten to water a plant, not like I'd just been told I didn't matter. I stayed silent for several seconds, remembering all the times I'd rushed to the bank. All the times I'd canceled my own plans to ensure they had a roof over their heads. All the times I'd eaten simple meals so I could afford their extravagant requests. "Jessica," I said with a calmness that surprised even myself, "I thought I only helped people who really matter." The silence on the other end was profound. For the first time in years, she was the one left speechless. "Margaret, I don't understand," she finally stammered. "We've always been important to you. You're like a second mother to me." Such beautiful lies. The same sweet voice she used whenever she needed something. The same tone she'd employed when asking me to help pay for her wedding dress, the honeymoon, the rings I'd contributed to without knowing I'd never see the ceremony. For so long, I'd lived with this constant anxiety, walking on eggshells, measuring every word and gesture, hoping to earn scraps of affection from my own son. I'd been the perfect mother, the accommodating mother-in-law, the silent benefactor who never complained about being treated as invisible. But that phrase, "people who really matter," awakened something that had been dormant far too long. I did the math in my head. Between rent, groceries, gifts, emergencies, and their whims, I'd spent over $27,000 in 3.5 years. $27,000 taken from my retirement savings, from the nest egg my late husband Thomas had left me for a peaceful retirement. And for what? To be treated like a stranger at my own son's wedding. That night after hanging up, I sat on my bed and wept. But these weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of accumulated frustration, of years of silent humiliation. I cried for every time they made me feel my love was a burden. I cried for the foolish mother I'd been, the woman who'd lost herself trying to be indispensable to people who considered her disposable. When I woke the next morning, something fundamental had shifted inside me. I stood at the bathroom mirror, seeing the same tired eyes, the same lines that told stories of giving love without receiving it back. But there was something new in my reflection, a hardness I didn't recognize, a determination that had been buried under years of compliance. I made my coffee as I had every morning for 45 years. But this time, I didn't immediately call David to check on him. I didn't anxiously wait for an apology message. For the first time in years, I was my own priority. I sat at my kitchen table where I'd planned so many surprises for them, counted out so many bills, cried so many silent tears. Now this table would witness something entirely different. I pulled out my checkbook and bank statements. I wanted to see the full extent of my own foolishness in exact numbers. Monthly rent, $650 times 42 months equals $27,300 groceries and supplies. Approximately $250 per month equals $10,500. Birthday, Christmas, anniversary gifts. At least $4,200 Jessica's medical emergencies. $1,100 car repair loan they never repaid. $3,500 air conditioner repair for their apartment. $850 living room furniture set. $1,800. Total, $49,250. $49,250. That was the price of my delusion. Money I'd withdrawn from Thomas's inheritance, from my pension, from decades of careful savings. All of it poured into keeping two capable adults comfortable, adults who couldn't even pretend to respect me.
My phone rang.
David's name appeared on the screen. Normally, my heart would race as I hurried to answer, hoping for an apology. This time, I let it ring.
Once, twice, 3 times.
Then silence. 10 minutes later, Jessica called. I let that ring too. Then a text from David. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. I deleted it without responding. At 2 p.m., I decided to take a walk, not for any errand related to them, but simply because I wanted to. I hadn't done that in months. I walked past the park where I'd taken David as a child. I remembered that sweet boy who'd hug me tight and declare I was the best mom in the world. When did he become this man who treated me like an ATM with feelings? When did I start believing I had to purchase my own son's love? At the bank where I'd made countless automatic transfers, I stopped. The branch manager, Mr. Harrison, spotted me through the glass and waved. He'd processed every transfer to David and Jessica for years. He'd watched my accounts drain month after month to fill theirs. I walked directly to his desk. Mr. Harrison, I need to cancel all the automatic transfers I've set up. He looked genuinely surprised. Are you certain, Mrs. Bennett? Is everything all right? His concern felt more authentic than any interest David had shown in months. What happened is I finally opened my eyes, I replied. I want everything canceled, and I need information about protecting my accounts. I don't want anyone else having access to my money. While Mr. Harrison processed the cancellations, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. David, Jessica, David again. It was as if they had radar detecting when their income source was threatened. I turned the phone off completely. Mrs. Bennett, Mr. Harrison said as he handed me the paperwork, forgive me for overstepping, but in all these years I've watched you be extraordinarily generous with your family. I hope you're not being pressured into these changes. His words touched me deeply. This man, who barely knew me beyond transactions, showed more genuine concern than my own son. I'm not being pressured, Mr. Harrison. On the contrary, I've finally stopped pressuring myself. Leaving the bank, I felt strangely weightless, as if I'd deposited an enormous burden in that office. For the first time in years, my money was entirely mine. When I reached home, 3 cars were parked outside my door. David's, Jessica's, and one I didn't recognize. Through my windows, I saw movement inside my house. My blood turned cold. They had keys I'd given them because I trusted them, because I thought they'd one day care for me as I'd cared for them. I took a deep breath. Time for the first real confrontation of my new life. I opened my door to a scene I'll never forget. David sat on my sofa, head in hands. Jessica paced like a caged animal. An older man I'd never seen was rifling through papers on my dining table. My papers. My personal documents. What exactly is happening here? I asked, my voice louder than expected. All three turned to look at me, as if I were the intruder in my own home. Jessica spoke first, her voice dripping with desperate urgency. Margaret, thank God.
We need to talk.
This is Mr. Peterson from the law firm we consulted about your situation. My situation? The question emerged with surprising calm. What situation? I'm doing perfectly well. David finally raised his head, those eyes that once belonged to an innocent child, now only reflecting financial panic. Mom, we went to the bank. They said you canceled everything. Mr. Harrison told us you blocked our access to your accounts. Why would you do that? Mr. Peterson, a man in his 50s wearing a gray suit and an insincere smile, approached with an outstretched hand. Mrs. Bennett, I'm Attorney Peterson, specializing in family law. Your children are concerned about your mental well-being and asked me to assess the situation. I didn't shake his hand. Instead, I walked directly to my dining table and gathered all my private documents he'd been reviewing without permission. These are my personal papers. You have absolutely no right to examine them without my consent. Mom, David interjected with that condescending tone he'd perfected lately. We're worried. Your behavior has been strange. First you cut us off financially, without explanation. Then you ignore our calls. We think you might need professional help. Jessica approached, attempting to take my hand with fake tenderness reserved for moments when she needed something. Margaret, sweetheart, we know you're stressed. Maybe the loneliness is affecting you more than you realize. At your age, episodes of confusion are completely normal. Confusion. The word echoed like an alarm bell. Now I understood why they'd brought the lawyer. This wasn't about helping me. This was about declaring me mentally incompetent and seizing control of my finances. The same woman who'd told me I didn't matter enough for her wedding was now treating me like a senile old woman. I am not confused, I said with firmness that silenced everyone. I'm clearer than I've been in years. And you're all leaving my house.
Now.
Mr. Peterson interjected with that professional voice lawyers use to sound reasonable. Mrs. Bennett, I understand you feel overwhelmed, but your children have rights to intervene if they believe your decision-making ability is compromised. They've documented several concerning behaviors. Concerning behaviors? The laugh from my throat was harsh, almost cruel. Like what? Deciding my money belongs to me? Choosing to stop financing two adults who treat me like garbage. Jessica jumped up as if I'd slapped her. We never treated you badly. Your family, everything you have will belong to us eventually, anyway. We're just accelerating the process. There it was, the naked truth. Everything I had would someday belong to them. In their minds, I was already dead, and they were merely collecting their inheritance early. Whether I had 70 years or 70 days left didn't matter. To them, I was just an ATM with legs that had become problematic. Out, I said, pointing to the door. All three of you, leave my house immediately. David stood up with that angry childlike expression he made when denied. Mom, we can't just leave. We have obligations. The rent, car payments, the credit card you co-signed. You can't just abandon us overnight. I can't. My voice rose for the first time. Who says I can't? For years I've paid rent on an apartment not even in my name. I've filled a refrigerator in a house where I wasn't welcome. I've financed a life that clearly had no place for me. Mr. Peterson pulled a folder from his briefcase and placed it on my table. Mrs. Bennett, we've prepared documents that could facilitate this transition. A power of attorney allowing David and Jessica to manage your finances more efficiently. This would just be temporary until you feel better. I took the folder and, without opening it, threw it directly into the trash. The only transition happening here is yours to my front door. Jessica started crying, not tears of sadness, but tears of frustrated rage. You can't do this to us, Margaret. We were counting on you. We made plans based on your support. We bought things, took on obligations because we knew we could depend on you. Obligations based on my money, I replied. Not on my well-being, not my happiness, not my company. Just my money. And now that I've decided my money is better spent on my own life, suddenly I'm a confused old woman needing legal guardianship. David tried approaching me, but I stepped back. He was no longer the boy who ran into my arms after nightmares. He was a 36-year-old man viewing his mother as an obstacle between himself and a comfortable life financed by others. "Mom, we made mistakes," he said in a voice meant to sound remorseful. "The wedding was a misunderstanding. Jessica was nervous. I was under pressure. We can fix this if you'll just be reasonable again." Reasonable. The word tasted bitter. Being reasonable means continuing to pay for your life while you treat me like a stranger? Pretending it doesn't hurt being excluded from the most important day of my only son's life. Mr. Peterson packed his papers with the efficiency of someone accustomed to rejected proposals. "Mrs. Bennett, this isn't over. Your family has legal options. If you're truly making irrational decisions due to mental health issues, a judge can determine you need guardianship." His words hit like a physical blow. This wasn't just a manipulative family visit. It was a genuine legal threat. They wanted to declare me incompetent to manage my own affairs. "Mr. Peterson," I said, looking him directly in the eyes, "I suggest you research thoroughly before threatening a 72-year-old woman who's managed her finances flawlessly for 45 years, who raised her son alone after her husband's death, who ran a household and worked honorably until retirement, and who until last week financially supported two perfectly capable adults." Jessica stopped crying and looked at me with coldness that finally revealed her true face. "This won't end like this, Margaret. We have rights. We have lawyers too." "Perfect," I replied. "Hire all the lawyers you want. With your own money, of course, because mine is no longer available to finance your legal tantrums." The three walked to the door with the wounded dignity of people unaccustomed to being told no. Before leaving, David turned one last time. "Mom, this is going to end very badly for you. You'll wind up alone with nobody to care for you when you really need it." "David," I said with deep sadness but crystalline clarity, "I'm already alone. The difference is now it's by my own choice, not your neglect." As I closed the door behind them, I stood in my living room surrounded by the most beautiful silence I'd heard in years. It was the silence of freedom. Section 2, The War for Freedom. That night I couldn't sleep, not from sadness or regret, but from the adrenaline of reclaiming control of my own life. I lay awake planning my next steps like a general preparing for battle. If David and Jessica wanted war, I'd give them one. But it would be fought with intelligence, not emotion. At 6 a.m. I was dressed and ready. My first stop, Attorney Edward Walsh's office, a man I'd met years ago handling Thomas's estate. Unlike Mr. Peterson, who David and Jessica brought, Mr. Walsh had an impeccable reputation specializing in protecting elderly rights. "Mrs. Bennett," he said after I explained the situation, "what your children attempted yesterday is more common than you'd think. It's called elder financial abuse, and it's a serious crime. The fact they entered your home without permission and examined your private documents also constitutes violation of privacy." His words both comforted and alarmed me. Comforted because they confirmed I wasn't crazy. What happened was genuinely abusive. Alarmed because I realized the situation was graver than I'd thought. "We need to document everything," Mr. Walsh continued. "Every transfer, every gift, every time they pressured you for money. We'll also modify your estate documents to protect your assets from future manipulation attempts." We spent 3 hours reviewing my financial records. Mr. Walsh whistled when he saw the total. $49,000 in 3.5 years. "Mrs. Bennett, with this money you could have lived comfortably, traveled, enjoyed your retirement. Instead, you completely financed two adults who didn't even respect you enough to invite you to their wedding." Leaving Mr. Walsh's office, I had a complete plan. First, change all my locks. Second, install a security system with cameras to protect against future surprise visits. Third, open a new bank account at a different institution where they had no contacts. Fourth, start living the life I'd postponed for years. My next stop was Davidson Hardware. The owner, Mr. Davidson, had known me for years because I was constantly buying things to fix David and Jessica's apartment. "Mrs. Bennet, another emergency with your son?" he asked with the familiarity of someone who'd silently witnessed my wasted generosity. "No, Mr. Davidson. This time it's for my own house. I need to change every lock, and I want the highest quality available." He looked surprised but asked no questions. While I was selecting locks, his son Eric, who installed security systems, stopped by. Perfect timing. "Eric, I also need surveillance cameras installed, the complete system. Price isn't an issue." While they prepared everything for next day installation, I received a call from an unknown number. Jessica, calling from someone else's phone since I blocked hers. "Margaret, it's Jessica. Please don't hang up. We need to talk like civilized adults." "Speak," I said curtly. "Listen, I understand you're upset about the wedding. It was a mistake. David and I have discussed it, and we want to make it up to you. How about a special dinner to celebrate our marriage with you? We could do it at your house, cook together like old times." The manipulation was so transparent, I nearly laughed. "Jessica, how much rent do you owe exactly?" The silence confirmed I'd hit the nerve. Well, 2 months. 1,300 total. But I'm not just calling about that, Margaret. We genuinely miss you in our lives." "Do you miss me or my money?" I asked directly. "Both," she replied with surprising honesty. "Margaret, I won't lie. Yes, we need your financial help, but we love you too. You're important to us." If I'm so important, why wasn't I important enough for your wedding? Why am I not important enough to get calls that don't request money? When's the last time you called just to ask how I was doing? Another silence. We both knew the answer. Never. "Jessica, I'll explain this once. For 3.5 years, you've treated me like an ATM with feelings.
You used me.
You ignored me.
You humiliated me.
And finally, you insulted me in the worst possible way. Now that the money's running out, suddenly you've discovered you love me. Margaret, please." I cut her off. "There is no please. You made your choice when you decided I wasn't special enough for your wedding. Now I'm making mine." I hung up and turned off the phone completely. That afternoon, I went to the salon I hadn't visited in over a year. I'd always canceled appointments because David or Jessica needed something urgent, or because money I'd saved for myself became their emergency. Mrs. Bennet, my favorite client, called out my stylist, Sandra. "What a surprise. I thought you'd forgotten us." "I didn't forget you, Sandra. I just forgot that I also deserve to be pampered." I treated myself to the complete package: cut, color, manicure, pedicure. For the first time in years, I spent money on myself without guilt. While Sandra worked on my hair, she told me about her life, her children, her dreams. It was refreshing having a conversation that didn't revolve around David and Jessica's needs. "You look beautiful, Mrs. Bennet," she said when finished. "But more than that, you look free. Did something good happen?" "Yes, Sandra. I finally learned to say no." When I arrived home that afternoon, an unfamiliar car was parked outside. My heart raced momentarily, thinking David and Jessica might have returned with reinforcements. But as I approached, I saw an older woman sitting on my porch steps. "Mrs. Bennet?" she asked as I exited my car. "Yes, that's me. Can I help you?" "I'm Helen Martinez. I live next door. We've been neighbors for years, but never had a chance to talk. Yesterday, I heard very loud voices in your house and got worried. Is everything okay?" Her sincere concern touched me deeply. Here was a stranger showing more interest in my well-being than my own son. "Come in, Mrs. Martinez. I'll make coffee and tell you a story you won't believe." While making coffee, I told her everything. Helen listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally. When I finished, her eyes were filled with tears. "Mrs. Bennet, you did the right thing. I went through something similar with my son 5 years ago. I also thought it was my duty to finance his adult life. I also believed he wouldn't love me if I didn't give money. What happened? I cut off the money when I realized he only called when he needed something. At first it was terrible. He threatened me, emotionally blackmailed me, tried making me feel guilty. But after 6 months, My son called to genuinely apologize. Now we have a real relationship based on love, not money. Her words gave me hope and confirmed I'd made the right decision. Do you think David and Jessica will understand someday? Maybe yes, maybe no, she answered honestly. But that's no longer your responsibility, Mrs. Bennet. Your responsibility now is to live your own life. That night, for the first time in 3.5 years, I went to bed without worrying whether David and Jessica had rent money, food money, money for their whims. I went to bed thinking about myself, my plans, my future. And I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, Eric and Mr. Davidson arrived at 8 a.m. to change locks and install the security system. While they worked, my phone kept ringing from unknown numbers. Jessica was still trying to reach me from different phones, but I developed a new skill, completely ignoring calls that didn't serve me. Mrs. Bennet, Eric said while installing cameras, this system will give you absolute peace of mind. You can see from your phone who's approaching your house even when you're not here. And if someone enters without permission, an alert automatically goes to police. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was installing security to protect myself from my own son. But it didn't hurt as much as it used to. It was simply a practical measure to maintain my newfound peace. While they worked, I decided to do something I hadn't done in years, call my sister Patricia in Boston. We'd lost touch because every conversation had become me bragging about how much money I'd spent on David and Jessica, how proud I was to help them. I now realized our conversations had become financial reports disguised as family news. Margaret, Patricia answered, surprised. Sister, how are you? We haven't spoken in months. I'm good, Patricia. Better than good. I'm calling to tell you I've finally come to my senses. I told her everything from the beginning. The secret wedding, the humiliation, the lawyer visit, my decision to cut funding. Patricia listened silently. When I finished, her answer surprised me. Margaret, sister, it's about time. Every conversation broke my heart hearing you boast about money you gave them, as if love could be measured in dollars. I wanted to say something, but didn't know how. What did you want to tell me? That David never spoke lovingly about you at family gatherings. It was always my mom helped with this or my mom bought that, but never I miss my mom or I love my mom. It was like you were a service provider, not a person. Her words hurt, but it was necessary pain. Like when a doctor cleans an infected wound, it hurts, but it's part of healing. You know what else I noticed? Patricia continued. Jessica always spoke about you in future tense. When Margaret is gone, we can remodel her house, or when we inherit, we'll invest in the business. As if they were waiting for you to die to really live. This revelation hit like ice water. They didn't just see me as an ATM. They saw me as a temporary obstacle between them and their money. After talking with Patricia, I sat in my kitchen processing all this information. Years married to a man who truly loved me. 36 years raising my son alone after Thomas's death. 3.5 years financing 2 adults who saw me as a disposable obstacle. The doorbell rang. The cameras showed Helen holding a mug. I opened the door, and she handed me freshly brewed coffee. I thought you might need company after everything you told me yesterday, she said with that genuine smile I'd come to appreciate. We sat in my living room, and Helen shared more details from her experience. My son said the exact same things to me that Jessica says to you. You're like a second mom. We're special to you. Everything will be ours someday anyway. Those are rehearsed phrases, Mrs. Bennet. They learn them from the Emotional Manipulation Handbook. Do you think such a handbook exists? I asked half-jokingly. Not officially, but everyone seems to read from the same book. Chapter 1. Make her feel indispensable. Chapter 2. Create constant financial emergencies. Chapter 3. When she resists, question her mental health. We laughed, but it was bitter laughter. Funny and tragic to recognize such predictable patterns in our own children's behavior. Did you ever feel guilty for cutting off the money? I asked. Every single day for the first 3 months, she answered honestly. But then I started seeing results.
My son got a second job.
His wife stopped her weekly spa days and found work. They learned to live within their means. And more importantly, They learned I was a person, not a resource. That afternoon, I decided to do something I'd postponed for years: visit Thomas's grave. I'd always made excuses because David or Jessica needed something urgent, or because taxi fare was better invested in their emergencies. The cemetery was quiet and beautiful. Thomas's grave looked somewhat neglected because I hadn't been there in months. I sat on the grass beside his headstone and talked to him as if he were alive. "Thomas, my love, I think I lost myself for a while. After you left, I put all my energy into David. I wanted to be the best mother in the world, thinking somehow I could compensate for him growing up without a father. But I think in the process I forgot to be myself." The wind blew gently, and for a moment, I felt he was listening. "Our son has become someone I don't recognize. Or maybe he was always like this, and I didn't want to see it. His wife is, well, you know how she is. The money you left for me to live peacefully, I spent it all on them. But not anymore, my love. I've learned." I cleaned his grave, replaced withered flowers with fresh ones, and stayed another hour simply enjoying the peace. For the first time in years, I wasn't hurrying home to solve a crisis for David and Jessica. When I got home, 3 cars were parked outside my door again. My heart raced, but this time I was prepared. The cameras showed David, Jessica, and 2 other people I didn't recognize. Everyone seemed agitated, talking and pointing at my house.
I didn't exit my car.
Instead, I called Mr. Walsh. "Mr. Walsh, they're at my house again. This time they've brought more people. What should I do?" "Don't get out of the car, Mrs. Bennett. I'll be right there, and I'm calling the police." After our conversation yesterday, I requested a temporary restraining order. They're not allowed on your property. Minutes later, Mr. Walsh and 2 police cruisers arrived. I watched officers speak with David and Jessica. Saw my son gesticulating angrily. Saw Jessica crying again. But this time her tears didn't move me. One officer approached my car. "Ma'am, you can exit safely. Your visitors are leaving immediately." As I got out, David shouted from the street, "Mom, this is ridiculous. We're your family. You can't call police on your own son." "David," I replied with calm that surprised even me, "family doesn't threaten lawsuits for mental incompetence. Family doesn't break into homes without permission. Family doesn't treat their mothers like ATMs." Jessica screamed from across the street, "You're going to pay us everything you owe. We have bills you co-signed. You can't just abandon us like this." Mr. Walsh interjected, "Mrs. Parker, any future communication must go through my office. And I suggest you consult an attorney before making collection threats, because my client has full documentation of all payments she voluntarily made for 3.5 years." I watched them drive away in their cars, defeated but not surrendering. I knew this wasn't over, but for the first time I felt confident. I had professional help. I had emotional support from Helen. And most importantly, I had mental clarity about what was right and wrong. That night, Helen invited me to her house for dinner. I met her son, who was visiting, and saw with my own eyes what a healthy family relationship looked like. They spoke respectfully, asked sincerely about each other's lives, laughed together. The son didn't ask for money once the entire evening. I wanted that with David too. I confessed to Helen after her son left. "And maybe you'll get it someday," she replied. "But first, he has to learn you're a person who deserves respect, not just a source of income." For the first time in weeks, I went to bed feeling hopeful about the future. The next few days were strangely peaceful. The surveillance cameras showed David and Jessica driving past my house several times daily, sometimes slowly, sometimes parking for minutes without exiting. It was as if they were studying my routine, looking for the perfect moment for their next move. Mr. Walsh had advised me to document every visit, so I kept a detailed log with dates and times. "Their persistence will work in our favor," he'd said. "Every time they show up after being told not to approach, it strengthens our case for a permanent restraining order." On Friday morning, I was calmly having breakfast when the doorbell rang. The cameras showed a very well-dressed young woman with a folder and professional smile. I didn't recognize her, but something about her posture indicated this wasn't a social visit. "Good morning, Mrs. Margaret Bennett." she said as I opened the door. I'm a social investigator from the Office of Elder Services. We've received a report that you may be in an at-risk situation and need to conduct a wellness check. My blood ran cold. David and Jessica had escalated. It was no longer just private lawyer threats. Now they'd involved the government. Can I see your identification? I asked, trying to stay calm. Of course. She showed official ID that looked genuine. I'm social worker, Ms. Anderson. May I come in and speak with you? I let her in, knowing refusal would be worse for my case. Ms. Anderson sat in my living room and removed a form from her folder. Mrs. Bennett, we've received reports that you've shown significant changes in financial behavior, cut off communication with family, and shown signs of paranoia by installing unnecessary security systems. We were also told you've refused medical and legal help from loved ones. Every word carefully chosen to make me sound like a mentally disturbed old woman. I recognized Jessica's handiwork in the wording. She'd always been skilled at manipulating words to get what she wanted. Ms. Anderson, I said with all the dignity I could muster, I'd like to call my attorney before answering any questions. Ma'am, this isn't a legal interrogation. It's a wellness check. If you have nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a problem speaking with me. The phrase, if you have nothing to hide, infuriated me. It was the same logic abusers used to justify invasions. If you're innocent, you shouldn't complain about privacy violations. Ma'am, I'm calling my lawyer. You can wait here or return another day, but I won't answer questions without legal representation present. I called Mr. Walsh, and he arrived within 20 minutes. When he entered and saw the social worker, his expression hardened. Ms. Anderson, he said after checking her ID, I hope you have a court order to be here, because my client is under my legal representation and any unauthorized investigation constitutes harassment. Sir, Ms. Anderson replied with less confidence than before, we have reports from concerned family members about the lady's well-being. It's our duty to investigate. What family? Mr. Walsh asked dryly. The same family that tried getting her to sign power of attorney without representation? The same family that broke into her house without permission and examined her private documents? The same family that excluded her from important events while living off her money? Mr. Walsh removed a folder from his briefcase and placed it on the table. Here I have complete documentation of my client's financial and emotional abuse. $49,000 withdrawn from her accounts in 3.5 years. Systematic social exclusion and emotional blackmail. If someone needs investigating here, it's not my client. Ms. Anderson reviewed the documents with growing discomfort. Obviously, the information she'd been given didn't match the reality before her. Mrs. Bennett, she said finally, can you explain why you so abruptly stopped financial support for your son? Because I finally discovered they were using me, I replied simply. Because I realized that to them, I wasn't a mother but a bank account. Because I was tired of financing the lives of people who saw me as an obstacle. But don't you feel it's your responsibility to help your family? The question outraged me. Ms. Anderson, my responsibility as a mother was to raise my son until 18, educate him, and give him tools to be an independent adult. My son is 36 years old, married, and perfectly capable of supporting himself. Financing his adult life isn't my responsibility. It's my choice, and I've chosen not to do so anymore. Mr. Walsh interjected. Ms. Anderson, would you consider it normal for a 36-year-old adult to be unable to pay his own rent without help from his 72-year-old mother? Ms. Anderson didn't answer immediately. I could see her reevaluating the entire situation. Mrs. Bennett, she asked after a moment, do you manage your own finances completely? I can show you my bank statements, investments, tax payments. Everything is current and in order. Do you live independently? As you can see, I keep my house clean. I take care of myself physically. I drive my own car. I have healthy social relationships with my neighbors. Do you take any medications? Just vitamins and occasionally aspirin. I don't have any medical conditions requiring medication. Mr. Walsh added, my client recently underwent extensive medical exams as part of our legal process. She's in perfect mental and physical condition. Ms. Anderson closed her folder. Mrs. Bennet, based on this conversation and the documentation I've reviewed, I see no indication you're at risk or need intervention. I'll close this case." After she left, Mr. Walsh and I remained silent for several minutes. "Margaret," he said finally, "this is going to continue escalating. David and Jessica are spending money they don't have hiring professionals to have you declared incompetent. Does that mean they're desperate?"
Exactly.
"What else can they do? They can file a lawsuit for incompetence. It's expensive and difficult to win. But if they find a sympathetic judge and a psychiatrist willing to testify in their favor, they could get a guardian assigned." The thought terrified me. They could take control of my money. They could try, but we have solid evidence you're completely competent and they're motivated by greed, not genuine concern. That afternoon, I called Patricia to vent. "Sister," she said after hearing my story, "do you notice how far they're willing to go for money? They're risking family relationships, spending money on lawyers and investigators, destroying their reputation, all to get access to your bank account again." Her words made me think. David and Jessica had completely revealed their true nature. There was no going back, no possibility of genuine reconciliation. To them, I'd never been a mother or a respected mother-in-law. I'd always just been money with legs. This revelation, though painful, was also liberating. I no longer had to wonder if I was making the right decision. I no longer had to feel guilty for protecting myself. They'd proven themselves that my emotional and physical well-being was less important than my money. That evening, Helen came to visit with a surprise. She'd invited her friends from the book club to meet me. "Margaret," she introduced me. "These are my friend Sandra, who you already know from the salon, Maria, Carmen, and Barbara. We've all been through similar situations with abusive family members." We spent the evening sharing stories. Maria had to set boundaries with a sister who constantly asked for money. Carmen had cut off relationship with a son who only visited when he needed cash. Barbara had to change her will after discovering her nephew considered her his retirement plan. "What hurts most," I confessed, "isn't losing the money I gave them, but realizing I never had the love I thought I had." "Margaret," Barbara said with the wisdom of her 78 years, "true love can't be bought or sold. If you had to pay for it, it was never real." Her words were balm for my wounded soul. She was right. I'd bought attention, not love. I'd financed an illusion. "You know what I've discovered?" I said to my new friends. "That loneliness surrounded by people who don't love you is worse than being alone on your own. At least now, when I'm alone, I'm in good company." Everyone laughed, and we toasted to our newfound wisdom. That night, after my new friends left, I sat in my garden thinking. The stars shone brighter than ever, or perhaps I was seeing them with clearer eyes. For the first time in my adult life, I was completely financially independent. I had no dependents, no financial obligations to anyone but myself. And instead of frightening me, this reality excited me. I could travel when I wanted. I could remodel my house. I could buy nice clothes. I could donate to charities important to me. I could invest in my own future instead of financing ungrateful people's present. Freedom tasted like hope. And for the first time in years, I wanted to plan my future. A month after the social worker's visit, I thought I'd finally won the war. I'd settled into a beautiful routine, calm breakfasts reading the newspaper, tending my garden, lunches with Helen or other new friends. In afternoons, I devoted myself to activities I'd abandoned years ago. I'd started painting again, something I'd been passionate about before becoming David and Jessica's personal financier. But on a Thursday morning, while painting flowers on my new easel, Mr. Walsh came to my house with a grim expression that made my blood run cold. "Margaret, we need to talk. David and Jessica have filed a formal lawsuit for mental incompetence in family court. They're requesting to have a legal guardian assigned to you." The words fell on me like stones. I knew it was possible, but hearing it aloud made it terrifyingly real. Does that mean they can take control of my money? If a judge determines you're unable to manage your affairs, yes, he could appoint David as your legal guardian, giving him full control over your finances. I sat heavily on my sofa, feeling the weight of the deepest betrayal I'd experienced in my life. My own son was trying to legally declare me incompetent to steal my money. Mr. Walsh, what evidence could they possibly have? You've seen I'm completely competent. They have statements from 3 witnesses claiming you've behaved erratically. They've also submitted unpaid doctor's bills you supposedly didn't pay and medications you supposedly hoarded without taking. But that's a lie. I don't have outstanding doctor's bills or hoarded medications. I know, Margaret, but they've fabricated convincing evidence. They also have a statement from Dr. Carlson stating you refused to cooperate with a psychiatric evaluation, which they interpret as proof of mental decline. The manipulation was diabolical. They turned my refusal to undergo an unnecessary exam into proof of mental illness. They'd used my instinct to protect myself as proof I needed protection. Who are the 3 witnesses? Mr. Walsh looked through his documents. Jessica, of course. A neighbor named Mr. Stevens. And someone claiming to be your pharmacist, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Stevens was the neighbor across the street, an unpleasant man who'd always had problems with me because my friends sometimes parked near his driveway. Mr. Reynolds was indeed my pharmacist, but I didn't understand what he could have against me. I need to talk to Mr. Reynolds, I told Mr. Walsh. Something's not right. We went to the pharmacy together that afternoon. Mr. Reynolds received me surprised and nervous. Mrs. Bennett, it's good to see you. How are you? Mr. Reynolds, I was told you signed a statement saying I show erratic behavior with medications. His face turned red as a tomato. Mrs. Bennett, your daughter-in-law came in a few weeks ago asking about your medications. She said she was worried because you were acting strangely. And what did you tell her? I explained you only buy vitamins and occasional aspirin, that you don't have any regular medical prescriptions. But she insisted this was proof you weren't taking adequate care of your health. Mr. Reynolds, did you sign a paper? She brought a document saying I was confirming Mrs. Bennett had irregular medication purchases. I thought it was for health insurance or something. I didn't know it was for a lawsuit. My own pharmacist had been tricked into signing something he didn't fully understand. Jessica's manipulation knew no bounds. Mr. Reynolds, I need you to write a statement explaining exactly what happened and clarifying I have no problems with medications. Of course, Mrs. Bennett. I'm terribly sorry for this misunderstanding. After the pharmacy, we went to confront Mr. Stevens. When we knocked on his door, he received us with obvious hostility. What do you want? Mr. Stevens, Mr. Walsh said, I understand you signed a statement about my client's behavior. That's right. That woman is crazy. She's been acting strange for weeks. Can you be more specific about the behaviors you observed? Installing cameras like she lives in a war zone. Having strangers visit all the time. Yelling at her family in the street. I realized Mr. Stevens had taken everything out of context. The cameras were installed for protection. The strangers were my new friends. The yelling was me defending my house from David and Jessica's invasions. Mr. Stevens, I said, do you know why I installed cameras? No, and I don't care. To protect myself from my son and daughter-in-law who broke into my house without permission and threatened me. That's what a crazy person would say, he replied cruelly. There was no reasoning with him. His statement was based on superficial observations maliciously interpreted. That evening, Mr. Walsh and I sat down to plan our defense. Margaret, we need our own psychiatric evaluation. I have a colleague, Dr. Thompson, who's an expert in assessing mental capacity. She can officially confirm you're completely competent. What if David and Jessica have bribed the judge? What if none of this matters because they've already decided to declare me incompetent? Margaret, the legal system isn't perfect, but it's not completely corrupt either. We have solid evidence of your mental competence and their financial motivations. We're going to fight this. The next day, I went to my appointment with Dr. Thompson. She was a woman in her 50s with kind but astute eyes. Mrs. Bennett, I'm going to ask you a series of questions and tests to assess your mental capacity. Take your time and answer honestly. For 2 hours, she asked questions about my memory, reasoning ability, financial understanding, emotional health. She also gave me cognitive tests and asked me to solve mathematical and logical problems. Mrs. Bennett, she said at the end, your results are well above average for your age. You're not only mentally competent, but your cognitive function is excellent. Doctor, why do you think my family is doing this? Based on what you've told me and the documents I've reviewed, this seems to be a classic case of elder financial exploitation. Unfortunately, it's more common than people think. I left the consultation feeling validated, but also sad. The professional confirmation of my mental health was relief, but it also confirmed the lawsuit was real and necessary. That afternoon, Helen organized an emergency meeting with all our friends from the book club. When I told them about the incompetence lawsuit, everyone was outraged. Margaret, Maria said, will testify in your favor. We've been with you for weeks, and anyone can see you're doing great. Better than great, Sandra added. You're clearer and stronger than many 40-year-old women I know. Barbara, with her 78-year-old wisdom, took my hands. Margaret, my dear, what your children are doing is nothing new. 4 generations greedy children have tried declaring their parents insane to get their money. But you have something many of these victims didn't have: documentation, legal support, and friends who can testify for you. Her words gave me hope. I wasn't alone in this fight. I had an army of strong women who'd witnessed my transformation firsthand. You know what the saddest thing is? I said, David and Jessica are willing to destroy any future possibility of reconciliation for money. Even if I were willing to forgive everything so far, there's no going back from this. And maybe that's for the best, Sandra replied. At least now you know exactly who they are and can act accordingly. That night, for the first time since this nightmare began, I really cried. Not out of sadness, but out of grief. I said my final goodbye to the son I thought I had, to the dream of a loving family, to the illusion that unconditional love was reciprocated. But something new also emerged within me, an iron determination not to let myself be stripped not only of my money, but also of my dignity and freedom. The war had officially begun, but I was ready to fight. The trial came 3 weeks later. I woke early, put on my best navy blue suit, and looked at myself in the mirror with determination I'd never felt before. Today, not only my mental capacity would be judged, my dignity as a person, my right to live free from abuse, my value beyond my bank account would be judged. Mr. Walsh came at 7 a.m. to review our strategy one last time. Margaret, remember, the burden of proof is on them. They have to prove you're incompetent. We just have to show you're not. What if the judge is already biased? Judge Richardson has a reputation for being fair. I researched his past cases, and he doesn't automatically favor families. He's dedicated to protecting elderly rights. We arrived at the courthouse at 9 a.m. In the hallway, I saw David in a new suit he probably bought for the occasion, and Jessica dressed in black, as if attending a funeral. Maybe it was the funeral of our family relationship. When our eyes met, David avoided my gaze, but Jessica held it with coldness that confirmed for her this was just a business transaction. Their lawyer was an older, elegant man with the kind of confidence that comes from winning similar cases before. When he began his opening statement, his strategy was clear: portray me as a confused old woman manipulated by strangers to alienate me from my loving family. Your Honor, he said in a solemn voice, Mrs. Margaret Bennett has shown clear mental decline in recent months. She's cut off all financial support for her family without rational explanation. She's installed unnecessary security systems due to paranoia and isolated herself from loved ones under the influence of neighbors and lawyers obviously taking advantage of her vulnerable situation. Every word carefully chosen to make my self-empowerment sound like dementia and my freedom sound like external manipulation. Then they called their witnesses. Jessica was first to testify, and her performance was Oscar-worthy. She cried while describing how I'd completely changed, become hostile and paranoid, isolated myself from the family that loved me. Your Honor, she said in a trembling voice, Margaret has always been like a second mother to me. Seeing her mental decline has been devastating. We just want to help her get the care she needs. Lies wrapped in convincing tears. When Mr. Walsh cross-examined her, cracks in her story began showing. Mrs. Parker, can you tell the court when was the last time you called my client without asking for money? Jessica stammered. Well, we always talked about many things. Can you give me a specific date? I don't remember exact dates. Is it true you and your husband got married without inviting my client? It was a very small ceremony. Is it true when my client asked about the wedding, you told her you'd only invited people who really matter? Jessica's face turned red. Those words were taken out of context. What would be the right context to tell your mother-in-law she doesn't really matter? She couldn't answer convincingly. David was next. Seeing him on the witness stand, swearing to tell the truth while preparing to lie about my mental health, was one of the most painful moments of my life. This was the boy I'd raised alone, the one I'd dedicated my entire life to. My mom has always been very generous with us, he testified. But lately she's become erratic and irrational. We believe she's being manipulated by people taking advantage of her. When Mr. Walsh cross-examined him, the mask fell completely. Mr. Bennett, how much money have you received from your mother in the last 3.5 years? I don't know the exact amount. Does $49,000 sound about right? David paused. Maybe. She's always been generous. And how many times have you visited your mother without asking her for money? The silence was deafening. Is it true you and your wife broke into my client's house without permission and examined her private documents? We were worried about her. Is it true you brought a lawyer to pressure her into signing a power of attorney? We wanted to help her manage her finances. Do you, at 36 years old, need help from your 72-year-old mother to pay her rent? David couldn't answer with dignity. Mr. Stevens testified about my supposed erratic behaviors, but when Mr. Walsh asked for details, he admitted he'd never spoken to me directly, and all his information was based on superficial observations. Dr. Carlson testified my refusal to undergo evaluation was proof of mental decline. But Mr. Walsh submitted documentation of our evaluation with Dr. Thompson, which completely refuted his conclusions. Then it was our turn. Mr. Walsh first called Mr. Reynolds, my pharmacist, who explained how he'd been tricked into signing a statement distorting my medication buying habits. Dr. Thompson testified about my excellent mental state and presented cognitive test results, which had been flawless. Mr. Davidson from the hardware store testified about my mental competence and explained my decisions to cancel automatic transfers were completely rational and properly processed. Helen and my friends from the book club testified about my clarity, newfound vitality, and ability to maintain healthy social relationships. Finally, it was my turn to testify. I stood with dignity and walked to the witness stand, feeling the weight of 72 years of experience, of wisdom gained through pain, of strength discovered in adversity. Mr. Walsh guided me through my testimony, letting me tell my whole story. The $49,000 spent in 3.5 years, the humiliation of being excluded from the wedding, the constant emotional manipulation, the violation of my privacy, the legal threats. Mrs. Bennett, Mr. Walsh finally asked, why did you decide to stop financial support for your son and daughter-in-law? Because I finally understood what I was getting from them wasn't love. I replied in a clear, loud voice. It was a commercial transaction disguised as a family relationship. My money was welcome, but I, as a person, was not. Do you regret your decision? I only regret it took me so long to make it. David's lawyer tried to make me appear confused during his cross-examination, but I answered every question with clarity and precision. When he tried implying my new friendships had manipulated me, I explained that for the first time in years I had relationships based on mutual respect, not financial interest. In his closing argument, David's lawyer insisted I was a victim of external manipulation. Mr. Walsh's rebuttal was devastating. Your Honor, what we've seen here is not the case of an incompetent old woman, but of a woman who's finally found strength to free herself from years of financial and emotional abuse. The plaintiffs have presented no real medical evidence of mental incompetence. What they've presented is frustration because their source of income has decided to exercise her legal and moral right to protect her own resources. Judge Richardson retired to deliberate for 2 hours that felt like 2 years. When he returned, his expression was serious but clear. After reviewing all evidence presented, he began, "It's obvious to this court that Mrs. Margaret Bennett is in full possession of her mental faculties. Professional psychiatric evaluations confirm her cognitive competence. Her financial decisions, as painful as they may be for her family, are completely rational and within her rights. My heart began beating faster. Furthermore, the judge continued, the evidence suggests this lawsuit is motivated by financial interest rather than genuine concern for Mrs. Bennett's well-being. The court completely denies the request for guardianship. I had won. I not only won the lawsuit, but also my freedom, my dignity, my right to live free from abuse by those who supposedly loved me. When we left the courthouse, I saw David and Jessica talking angrily with their lawyer. Jessica gave me a look of pure hatred before walking away. David looked at me one last time, and for a second I saw something that could have been regret. But it was already too late. That night, Helen organized a celebration at my house with all our friends. We toasted to justice, to freedom, to the sisterhood of strong women who support each other. Margaret, Barbara told me, "Today you didn't just win a trial. You won back your life." She was right. For the first time in years, the future was completely mine. I could travel. I could love. I could create. I could live without fear, without guilt, without manipulation. 3 months later, I sold my house and moved to a beautiful apartment near the city center. I donated half my money to organizations protecting the elderly from family abuse. With the other half, I began living the life I'd always wanted. I traveled through Europe, took art classes, joined volunteer groups. I never heard from David and Jessica again. I learned from others they'd had to move to a smaller apartment, and Jessica had found a job for the first time in years. Perhaps adversity would teach them what my generosity never could: the value of honest work and independence. Some nights, when I look at the stars from my new balcony, I think about the woman I was a year ago, fearful, manipulated, believing I had to buy love. That woman is dead, and in her place, someone has been born who understands a fundamental truth. True love never has a price, and freedom is never too expensive. My name is Margaret. I am 73 years old, and I've finally learned the most important person I have to love and protect is myself.